Sure, with the continuation of Baldur's Gate 3 here on the first stream. Last time around when we played on Monday, we made some really interesting progress exploring all the environments around the major settlement we had arrived at, and finding some optional fights that were quite challenging, doing some exploring and looting and stuff that was really fun.
You left out the part where you're being handheld the entire time and getting into engagements that are taking 45 minutes at a time because you're way underleveled and don't understand the mechanics. But yeah, we had a super fun time playing Baldur's Gate 3. I'll shut up.
And today we're going to continue to head northward. Yeah, north from where we were and exploring further. A lot of people are yelling at me now. This is funny.
I can guarantee you with 100% certainty that anytime that DSP said that something is funny or that this is going to be funny, it will just not be funny. Like I said, guaranteed every single time, 100% of the time, or I'll give you a free sandwich coupon.
A lot of people are yelling at me saying, you got to do a long rest. Why didn't you do a long rest? Don't be afraid to do a long rest. And I'm like, well, because when I was playing, people were telling me that long rests are dependent on having enough resources to do those long rests, and that's based on like how much food and stuff you find, which I found a decent amount of, but I wouldn't say I found too much. So for me, I want to be apprehensive about doing these long rests. I don't want to just constantly be doing them, and next thing you know, I blow through all my resources, and then later when I actually need one, I can't do one. Now, admittedly, I think it's time for a long rest because I have like no spells left. Like all my good spells I haven't had in a while, right? I didn't even have my best area of effect spell. I didn't have for the Harpy fight, which is what I really would have used to destroy them. If I had, I would have blown through it, right?
So hopefully you believe me next time DSP says that something is funny. You can just remember this segment and remember it was not funny whatsoever. And that's what I was talking about when I said that he was taking 45 minutes to do an encounter because he didn't understand the mechanics of the game. He'd have been much better off if he would have had those spells to do that encounter. But he's just so apprehensive about taking a long rest, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm definitely one of those people that will save all of their resources for the end game and then wind up just never using it because I didn't need it. But camping supplies in Baldur's Gate 3 are so aplenty at the beginning especially that I never even thought to not camp. Especially because how many spells you have hinge on how often you wind up camping, and I'll be goddamned if I go into a difficult fight and I don't have the spells that I need to actually accomplish the fight the way I'd like to.
So I think you know, that's the first thing we should probably do is probably let's do a long rest and then continue north and see what else we've got up there and get to other plot points. Again, as long as you guys show up and you engage with me during this playthrough, you help me out to understand the lore, to understand the gameplay mechanics that I'm not getting, to make this an interactive and fun experience rather than a game I'm trying to play for myself and not getting. Again, instead of it being like Dark Souls 1, my first run, where I didn't get the game, I got frustrated and I quit it, I'd much rather have it be a fun, interactive experience with all of you.
So in case you need that translated through the Pignosis into proper English, all he really managed to say there was that he needs everybody's help to handhold him so that he will continue to play the game and not wind up rage quitting it like he did Dark Souls back in the day. So make sure that you show up and you handhold him, and make sure that you give him enough tips so that he feels obligated to continue to play the game. Because the second that that slows down, he's not going to be having fun anymore. So he's going to drop the game like a sack of potatoes. And obviously everybody would hate that.
Now, I have an update, and I have something to say about this. I talked about it very briefly in last night's Daily Wrap, but in case you missed it, I'm having a pretty good laugh right now, all right? Admittedly, and here's why, okay? For those who don't know, I have a group of people on this internet who hate my guts because they're morons.
Do you guys remember the video that I literally put out yesterday? The one where he said that he was holier than thou? The one where he got on his moral high horse and acted like he was better than everybody else because he doesn't talk about drama and he's not willing to make entertaining content that people actually want to see? He'd much rather just make this boring drivel all day. If not, I'd recommend that you go watch it. I really enjoyed doing it. But now that I've reminded you of it, you can throw everything that he said in that video completely out the window about not talking about drama and not bringing up detractors and trolls unless it's relevant, because this absolutely didn't need to be said. It's completely out of the blue. It doesn't matter. He's not going to be able to justify why he decided to bring it up today. He's going to try. Don't get me wrong. He's going to try and make it sound like it's relevant, but it is factually just not. None of this needed to be said or addressed on a stream at all. He absolutely could have ignored these people and never talked about them, and his stream would have been better for it, and he would have been able to stick to his word. But obviously that's not the case when it comes to the guy, because it's drama over every other style of content, for sure.
It's not because they have valid reasons to not like me. It's because they just listen to people who like to crap on me because they get personal gain out of it, whether they make content or they do streaming, whatever it is. Being toxic on the internet is very profitable and popular today. It's also very harmful and very messed up that you would do it, but these people just decide to do it because they're incredibly greedy and immoral and scumbags, okay? It's the easy way to be popular on the internet instead of actually having to do something of worth or quality and work hard. Instead, you take the easy way out and you just crap on people, okay?
It's just so ironic that DSP has the gall to say that the detractors don't work hard, that they don't actually make anything worth value. But if you just look at all the parody songs about DSP made by the detractors, you can see that there's actual talent in there, and there's a little bit of skill for sure. If you look at all of the detractor art about DSP, you can see more raw talent in there than any sort of fan art that DSP has ever received. And all you have to do is watch one WPIG stream and see that ALT puts more work into his stream than DSP could ever even fathom. But DSP would obviously never admit that. He could never admit that detractors actually care about the content that they put out, and they do a much better job putting out quality content than he does. Because he's such a hard worker, sitting on his ass playing video games every single day, being handheld by his chat, and getting free money for it. I've seen this a lot in my comments, and honestly, you guys are right. All of his streams might as well just be YouTube plays insert game title, and DSP's just making money off of it. Because he's not good at any of these games, and he gets handheld the entire time, so basically whatever chat says goes, and he doesn't even have anything interesting to add verbally. And not to mention that his streams are just unappealing to the eye. I understand his philosophy of, oh, I want to put the focus on the game, it's all about the gameplay here, but you also need to just do something that is interesting for your stream. Do something that sets you apart. You can go anywhere and just watch gameplay. But of course, detractors are the ones that don't put any work into their content. Sound good? Sounds good to me. And by the way, categories.
So these people are upset right now. And let me tell you why they're upset. It's pretty funny, all right?
Oh, please, DSP, tell me why I'm upset. I would love to hear why you think that I'm upset.
So as you guys know, when Baldur's Gate 3 came out in August, I did not play it. I told you guys I didn't think it was going to fit into my streaming format. At that point, with all the new releases that were going to be coming out over the fall, I didn't feel like a game like this made any sense to play at that point. But I told you guys that maybe eventually when it was ported to console, which it was in September, I would look into it. And all over the course of September, October, November, everyone's saying, are you going to play Baldur's Gate? Are you going to play Baldur's Gate? Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate. And every time you guys asked, I said, guys, can't do it yet. We don't have time. If we started it now, no one will be satisfied because we've got so many other games going on that we got to finish first. We know that Baldur's Gate is a 100+ hour experience. It doesn't make sense to jump into Baldur's Gate now. You guys won't be satisfied if I play it once or twice a week. You want to see a good amount of progress every week. We got to stay in the lore of this universe. We got to stay engaged, right? So let's wait till it makes sense, and then we'll talk about, you know, when we're going to do it.
And let's be fair to DSP, there was a couple of times where he said no in this fashion. He told them it wouldn't make sense, it doesn't fit into the schedule, and let's wait on it, maybe we'll play it eventually. That's what he said. I'll give him that. But that was only at the beginning. That was only shortly after Baldur's Gate 3 was coming out that he actually said it like that. Come the end of October and all through November, he was very, very hostile. Every single time that anybody bothered mentioning Baldur's Gate 3. He even did a couple of segments where he basically called anybody that was asking stupid and telling them that they were wasting everybody's time by asking. I feel like I say this a lot, but it's oftentimes not about what you're saying, but how you're saying it. And if DSP continued to say no in the fashion that he just did about not having time in his schedule and it not making any sense and waiting, then there wouldn't have been any issues with how he was treating the game. But between the outright hostility that these people asking were greeted with and his just egregious claims about how the Game Awards were gonna go, it just became this whole event for DSP. And just like always, he has no one to blame for that but himself because he's the only person that's in charge of the way that he addresses things. Nobody can put these words into his mouth. He just decides to say them, even though he probably shouldn't.
Okay, great. And that's exactly what we've done. Now, what ended up happening was, of course, hype keeps building. The game gets nominated for Game of the Year and a million other awards. The game wins Game of the Year and a million other awards at the Game Awards. So the hype goes sky high. And it just so happens that during this time period, I finish a ton of other games. And we're to the point now where there are no other major new releases this year except for Avatar. And so we're sitting here trying to determine what we're going to do. Should I play Avatar? Should I not? What should I do? And we come to the conclusion, people want to see Baldur's Gate 3 no matter what. So people start nominating this game in droves for the Christmas marathon. And I'm like, oh, how is Baldur's Gate 3 going to work for a Christmas marathon when potentially I'm only going to be playing it for like an hour? We probably won't even get out of the character creator, right? So I'm like, man, this is not going to work.
I love that reaction from DSP when he's seen that Baldur's Gate 3 was winning the poll for his Christmas marathon. How is that gonna work? How am I gonna do that? Oh my god. That wouldn't have been a problem if he would have just played the game when people wanted to see it originally. Because there was so many other games that people just genuinely did not care about and did not want to see, and at the end of the day, didn't matter that he could have played Baldur's Gate 3 instead of. I mean, how many times did he tell us that his audience didn't want to see Mario Wonder? And it shouldn't take a genius to tell you that Modern Warfare 3 was was not a release that anybody absolutely needed to see DSP play. Don't get me wrong, the Salt sessions are always amusing to me as a former Call of Duty fan, but he always wants to talk about making meaningful content when he just has run-of-the-mill terrible COD gameplay every single year, year after year. Not exactly what I would call meaningful. What about that last Yakuza game that nobody cared about? You know, the streams that he says he expected to just not do well? Could have started playing Baldur's Gate 3 then. But no, of course he waited till the very last minute when he was essentially going to be forced to play it during a marathon where it would make the least amount of sense to do it. He just wasn't interested in playing the game. He was never going to play it, but they were going to force him to play the game at an inopportune time. So obviously he was going to decide to just bite the bullet and play the game, especially after it won all the game awards. Because at the end of the day, all he's going to do is milk it for as much money as he can get out of it, and then wage quit it when the time comes. And since I just said that, I think that I have to acknowledge, because it's only fair, that I once said that he was only going to make it 4 streams into Baldur's Gate 3 and then he was going to wage quit. Right now, currently while I'm recording this, DSP is playing his 4th stream of Baldur's Gate 3. So either he wage quits today, which I don't think is likely, honestly, or I was wrong. So I'm just going to say now, I was wrong. DSP made it further than I thought he would. So I guess big ups for that. But I still stand by the idea that he's never going to finish the game, not in 1 million years.
So finally, all things considered, we're all talking about this. We say, let's just play it. Now makes sense because we can play for about a month before big new releases start coming out in January, and we can get a big chunk into the game. You know, if I'm playing it roughly 9 hours a week, we could get potentially 40 plus hours into this game before it kind of has to go on a little bit of a back burner for me to play other hot new releases, okay?
And this kind of behavior is the reason why he can't just beat a game in a timely manner. Because he insists on playing 100 different games, and if a game takes too long, he puts it on the back burner so that he can focus on those hot new titles. Because to this day, he's still chasing those day one views. I mean, they're still there to some extent, but I don't really know if it's worth it. But I think that the reality of the situation is he's going to do that and then just wind up never picking the game up again. Because nobody's asking for it, dude. Why would I go back? We haven't played it in months and people just haven't been bringing it up. Except for all of the people who will inevitably bring it up. But DSP will just brush those people off to the side and say that those are trolls or detractors. And that they are just trying to derail the stream, dude. Nobody cares.
So that's how we've been approaching it. And so far, we're 12 hours in. Really enjoying the game. Playing it 3 more today. 9 more hours next week. Even with my holiday marathon on Saturday and the Christmas Eve special on Sunday and no streaming on Monday, I'm still playing Baldur's Gate 3 times next week because you guys like it so much and because I'm really enjoying this experience we're having together, okay? So, what is the point, says King Be Cruel? Well, if you had some patience, King Be Cruel, maybe you would learn. Maybe if you could be quiet for a second so I can finish my story. Instead of whining in the chat, if you could be quiet for a moment and listen to me speak on my podcast, you would understand where I'm going with this, okay?
I know that DSP is joking. Trust me, I understand that. He dunked on King Be Cruel because he knows that he's a regular. But when it comes to DSP dunking on viewers, that's not exactly out of the realm of possibility. So it's probably just not wise to do that because it's not a good look given the fact that you've done that many a times before.
So I'm being silly. I'm just joking. Don't take it seriously. Okay. So why I'm bringing all this up is because recently, I started to notice a lot of people are getting bothered by the fact that I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 and I'm enjoying it with my audience and we're having a good time and the playthrough is not a train wreck disaster.
I'd just like to know how you would define a train wreck disaster, and what playthrough are you watching, because it's probably not your own if you really think that that's the case. I mean, in your last stream, you spent 45 minutes in one encounter. Now, I'm not saying that's out of the realm of possibilities. Some of these fights can take quite a while, but you definitely weren't having fun doing that, so much so that you got on your daily rap that night and decided to complain about it. And everybody saw your day one blunder where you got Gale killed and then decided to roll the rest of your party all the way through the necrotic fog. Yeah, that was some genius level behavior. And then the game crashed? Yo, that shit was so funny. I mean, you even got on stream and decided to complain that the game expected you to know that you could light oil on fire and it would burn. If none of those things are a train wreck disaster, I really, like I said, just need to know what your definition of that is. Because if I saw a friend playing like that in real life, I would just take the controller from them. They're not allowed to play that anymore. They need to play something else. Why don't we change games, brother? And if it's not these bewildering gameplay moments that you continuously have, it's just the most boring thing on the planet where you're walking around talking to people and letting everybody in the chat decide what you do next. But go ahead and cope and tell me that you're having so much fun and give me all the reasons why. I'd love to hear them.
Yes, people are genuinely upset that I'm having a good time with this game and it's doing well. They don't like that. I'm getting comments on videos. I'm getting emails about it. Oh, how dare you play Baldur's Gate 3 and have a good time with your audience. So now, of course, it becomes, oh, your audience just handhold you every single possible moment, right? It's like, well, if you watch the playthrough, you'd see I've never played D&D before of any kind. I've never played this style of game.
So the comments and the emails are telling you that you're being handheld the entire time, and your defense is, well, if you watched the playthrough, I've never played D&D before. So they're not lying. They're not mistaken whatsoever. You didn't disprove them at all. In fact, what you said is absolutely because I don't know what I'm doing. And I can say this for the rest of my life, and it will always remain true. You don't have to know anything about Dungeons and Dragons in order to play Baldur's Gate 3 and get an understanding of it in the first couple of hours. And him saying that he's never played a game like this before is just patently false. Don't get me wrong, there is definitely a difference between Divinity Original Sin 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. You guys made sure to tell me that there is a difference in the rule sets and how the games play to the T, and that Larian did a lot of work to make sure that the game was more vertical and had far more options for you to take. I understand all of that. But at the end of the day, if you played Divinity Original Sin 2 and understood the mechanics there and played 60 hours of it like DSP did, you should be able to pick up Baldur's Gate 3 and not have any issues with what's going on. He's not new to video games, he's not new to RPGs, and specifically, he is not even new to this genre of RPG. So all of the emails and comments were correct. He is being handheld and he has no excuse, other than to say that he doesn't know about Dungeons and Dragons, which doesn't matter.
It makes sense to have that level of engagement with the audience. That's what's making the playthrough good. You guys get to see my genuine first-time reactions to this game that I don't really understand, and I get to be immersed in lore and gameplay elements and a new atmosphere that I've never seen before. It works both directions, right?
But they aren't first-time genuine reactions if you were having everybody tell you where to go, what to do, what secrets are around the corner, what builds you should be doing, which spells to pick, because none of it is real exploration on your end. It won't be included in this segment because it happened much, much later in this stream, but 1 Minute Man tipped with a whole paragraph about a bunch of spoilers telling DSP where to go and what to do with this item, and then you'll get this reward. And all of that just takes the fun out of actually playing the video game. If you know all of the things, why even bother at that point? Just to say you did it?
Again, if I were just sitting here playing the game for myself, I would not be enjoying it. I want you to understand that. It is this interaction that we're having that is the reason why this playthrough is so good right now. And as long as we keep that going, this playthrough will be a lengthy, enjoyable, awesome game.
So for anybody who needs another translation from Pignosis to English, he just said that the hand-holding is the reason that he's enjoying the game, and if it weren't for that, he absolutely wouldn't play it because he's not interested in the game. So keep holding his hand so he can continue to pretend liking the game while he gets paid for doing nothing and making zero decisions for himself. That's pretty much everything that he said. He just says it in a really weird roundabout way like he always does, because he can't just be honest and open about anything. I mean, I can't blame him in this instance because you shouldn't be saying or even thinking these things, but he definitely is, because that's the idea that he's conveying in, like I said, a very weird roundabout way.
But if people get bored, or if I get bored and we get disengaged with the game or each other, yeah, that's when it's going to kind of fall apart, and that's happened with other game playthroughs before. But let me tell you, seriously, right now, these people are really upset. There are, like I said, they just can't take the fact that something that I'm doing is going well.
Well, if that's the case, DSP, then I'm sure that they're actually doing fine and not upset at all, because your playthrough is not going well. You look like an absolute buffoon. And from what I've seen, at least in my own comment section and the people that I've talked to in the Snortex personally, there's really only two camps on this. You either never wanted to see DSP play Baldur's Gate 3 anyway because he was just going to screw it all up like he has been, and you weren't even interested in seeing that, or it's your wet dream to see DSP play the entire game because you know that he's going to screw it up like he has been, and you are absolutely loving it because you are going to watch that This Is How You Don't Play, and it is going to be a masterpiece. So I don't know who DSP is talking about. I don't know who's in his comments or sending him emails, but I'm honestly questioning whether this person even exists.
At any moment in my life, if something goes well, they hate it. When I come to my stream and I say, wow, I had a great morning, oh my God, they get really upset. As petty as that is, as weird as that is, that's how some people are on this planet. There's people who literally only live to see others suffer. And when that suffering stops, or if it's going the other way, they can't stand it.
God, the way that DSP talks about people who don't like him online, you'd think he was talking about like psychopathic murderers or something, like actual dregs of society. But no, it's totally just a bunch of people who like to laugh at this old man being bad at video games online.
And that's what's happening right now with this playthrough. Like, some of these people are so dumb, they don't realize that, like, when they come on the playthrough and they try to, like, leave insanely negative comments about that, no one's going to see them. Right? They're that dumb.
Yeah, nobody's gonna see them, you idiots. Except for DSP, the very person that you're talking about. Probably the only person that you actually wanted to see the comment. And not only did he see it, but now you have confirmation that he saw it, and it bothered him enough that he was willing to do an entire segment on it. This is one of the reasons why DSP has such a trolling problem. This is why sock accounts are so rampant in his community. Because eventually, he will respond to something that you say. So maybe it's not on this account. Maybe you got insta-banned as soon as you said something. But if you catch him at the right time, in the right mood, he absolutely will address you and you will get your own segment. Also, it entirely defeats the purpose of telling these people that nobody is gonna see their comments when you pretty much just read out loud what they said. I mean, obviously he was paraphrasing very, very briefly, and I'm sure they called him a pig and mentioned his wife and all of the normal things that a troll might say in a comment, but the general idea was still there. They're still upset that you're being handheld in Baldur's Gate 3 and you just told your entire audience that that's what they said. So way to go, champ. You really gave the trolls another L to hold.
They'll come and write like a giant paragraph on part 1 of Baldur's. This playthrough will suck because Phil will just have his handheld the entire playthrough. He's not playing the game for himself and he's only playing it because he's making money and it's absolutely hilarious.
Holy shit, I totally didn't expect him to actually continue to do it and explain into further detail exactly what they were saying. So everything that I just said, but like think about it again and just pretend that I did it again. Thank you.
It couldn't be any less true if you just watch the playthrough. You would totally see what they're saying is false, but they want to try to shit on your Wheaties. You get it? Like, that's what it is. They want to ruin a good experience that others are having.
But their complaint is that you're being handheld, and like I said earlier, you didn't disprove what they were saying. You just gave a garbage excuse that doesn't actually matter. So if they just watch the playthrough like you recommend that they do, they're gonna walk away with the same complaints because they're just gonna watch you being handheld the whole time. I think DSP would really benefit from just watching his own content back every once in a while and realize that what he's saying does not come across the way that he thinks it does. He thinks that he's totally dunking on them right now and that he's disproven everything that they've said. And that's just very clearly not what happened. In fact, it's the exact opposite scenario. He's proven them correct and is looking like an absolute asshole right now.
There's so many people that are sad little miserable balls of hate on the internet that they can't get away from themselves being like that and trying to just dump on everything.
That's gold coming from the king of hate himself. But I guess it takes one to know one, and who better than the king, you know?
And I think a lot of people were actually anticipating that this playthrough was going to suck. They thought that I was not going to like it. I was going to suck at it. You guys were going to hate me playing it because you would think that I wasn't going to get it and that it was going to be like me beating my head against the wall and everyone just being frustrated. Like, oh, but it hasn't been like that.
I mean, if we look at the 3 things that he just said that people thought the playthrough was going to be like, that he hates it, that he sucks at it, and that you guys were going to hate it, 2/3 of that is correct. He does dislike the game. You can tell. It's very obvious. And he does suck at it. That's also very obvious. You can tell. And I'm convinced at this point that the Dents will just watch anything. And they'll also just give DSP money for any old reason under the sun. It doesn't actually matter at this point. As long as the pig roach is still breathing, some of these people are going to continue to send in PayPal donations. And that's fine if that's what they want to do. I wish that they'd wisen up and quit doing that, but at the end of the day, I don't really care.
Right? Yes, I am trying to learn, and yes, it's tough. I'll admittedly, again, say it again, we're 12 hours in. I still feel like every time I play this game, I'm getting an education. Every time you're teaching me new things about the game I don't understand. It's very complex. There's lots of levels here to understand, of gameplay elements, of lore, and all this stuff.
I think it's so funny that DSP said that, yes, I'm trying to learn and it's tough, because it really goes to show you how deteriorated his brain actually is. When learning the basics of D&D lore and the basics of an RPG's gameplay is akin to some sort of lesson for him. It's something that really racks his brain. I would hate to see him try and learn something that is actually complex. If DSP for some reason had to attend something like a flight school and become a pilot, his brain would just be a mushy puddle on the floor. Because I don't think that learning a video game like Baldur's Gate 3 is supposed to be that difficult. It's actually very casual friendly. That's how it won all of those game awards. It's very welcoming to people who have never played that style of game before. If it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea. I get that, but to say that it's some sort of, difficult, intricate game that takes years and years to learn or whatever, it's really not all that.
So it is tough. It's like I'm absorbing so much information every single time that we play Baldur's Gate 3. But because it's a successful, fun, engaged experience with the audience, that's why it's working, and that's why it's been such a great experience, right?
I mean, sure, if you say so. I guess it is true that the only reason you're continuing to play the game is because you're being handheld. And if continuing the game and continuing streaming the game is a success in and of itself, then yeah, I guess that's the reason that it's a successful playthrough so far, is because you're being handheld. But I feel like that's only true based off of those technicalities. And that's not exactly something that you should be, lauding over people.
And people can't stand that. They literally want to believe that me, Phil Burnell, DSP of 2023, is the same as DSP of 2011. The guy who literally couldn't play Dark Souls, raged, walk off cliffs, got to Blight Town, and rage quit the game. They want to believe that because that pushes their toxic narrative and continues with their negative memes and shit on the internet, but it's completely false.
Oh, but DSP, you definitely are that same person from 2011 that rage quit Dark Souls. The only difference between then and now is that now you have stream chat that can hold your hand the entire time, so you can get a lot further than you probably would have by yourself. In fact, I think that you've even said it in this very video that if it weren't for the stream chat, then you would have just quit the game because you would have been confused and not interested in playing it anymore. Kind of like you were with Dark Souls, except that was a little more anger, where this is a little more just uninterest because you're too stupid. So there's been no change in your personality, your character traits. It's entirely just because of the situation that you find yourself in, a situation that has stream chat that can hold your hand.
There's nothing to justify what they're saying, but they say it anyway, and they're upset when something actually comes out as concrete evidence that what they're saying is wrong. So every moment that this playthrough exists, succeeds, is positive, and we're having a great time together with it, they're upset.
Well, shout out to all of those people, I guess. I don't know who they are, but I guess shout out you. Because me and everybody that I know has been having a blast talking about all of DSP's Baldur's Gate 3 shenanigans. Although I don't think that it'll happen, I really do hope that DSP plays the game all the way through. Like I said, not in a million years will that happen, but I really hope so.
Now, I can't fix that. You know what I mean? Like, I can't fix these broken people. I wish I could. I wish there was some magic word I could say to make them all feel better about life so that they would not feel miserable now because the Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough is a good success right now. Like, I wish there was something I could do to make these people feel better about their own lives so they would stop caring so much about mine. But sadly, I don't know how to do that. I can't really reach out to every single one of these thousands of miserable wretches and try to make their lives each better individually. You know, I'm not a real life Santa Claus. I can't do that. You know, maybe if this was some kind of a Hallmark Christmas movie, I'd have some dust and I go on my stream, and all of a sudden their lives are, oh, their hearts grew 3 sizes and now they all feel better about the holiday season and then stop caring about my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough. But I guess there's no way I can really do that. You know what I mean?
I don't really have anything to say to that stupid bit, except that it wasn't funny and that I didn't laugh.
So, I just want you to understand that how appreciative I am. Because for every person out there who's positive and having fun with me every day and enjoying my content and my streams, understand that there's these weird, miserable people who are just, they're always rooting against everything, right?
If by everything you just mean you, then yeah, I guess I'm rooting against everything. But again, that's only if you define everything as you and your streams. But go ahead, DSP, tell me how miserable and negative I am as you sit on your stream and talk about nothing but drama, negativity, and trolls until you pass. In Minecraft, of course.
They want everything to go wrong. They want everything to fail. They want everything to just think about that. It's the holiday season. Christmas is in less than a week, and they're sitting on my streams and on my videos, typing out paragraphs of nasty comments no one will ever see to say, I don't like you and I hope everything fails for you.
Again, saying that these are comments that nobody's gonna see, but they got their own dedicated DSP segment. That's so much better than somebody actually seeing your comment and you'll never know about it. You let these people have influence on what content you cover during your stream. That's a crazy amount of power to get from one comment like that. Also gotta love that DSP is sitting here pretending that the holiday season has any impact on whether or not people do their favorite hobby, which is hate on him. That's the great thing about being a detractor. There's no off season. It's year round, baby. There's always content, there's always something going on, and there's always something to talk about. Even during the slow times, you could talk about something, you could watch something older, it's all good. People just love to see the guy and shit on him.
What kind of a person would do that? I mean, don't you feel bad? You would think, oh, don't you get upset? No, I don't get upset anymore. I used to. Back in the day, I would see that behavior and I'd be like, wow, I'm upset. I'm not upset anymore. I feel sad that there's so many people on this planet that have nothing going for them, that this is their existence.
See, but I think this is one of those delusions of grandeur that DSP is always going on about, because he thinks that someone leaving a negative comment is like their entire existence. This is what they do. When really it's just a part of their existence, in the same way that like waking up every day is part of your existence and eating that peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch was part of your existence. It's just kind of something that happens and you do it in your free time and then you just kind of move on. But DSP just thinks that if you dislike him, that's the only thing that you do all day long and that's all that matters in your life. He has such a warped perspective on what his detractors are actually like. Like, I won't lie, at this point, DSP content does take up a large portion of a lot of my days because I make these videos for you guys and I have fun doing them. And I read a lot of your comments because I like to interact with you guys and see what you have to say. But when I have time, just like everybody else, I have other hobbies that I do. I enjoy spending time doing other things. But if you ask DSP, this is my entire existence. I exist solely to make fun of him. And without him, I would just poof, disappear off the face of the earth.
I also feel sad that they get wrapped up into this toxicity and negativity, especially this time of year. You know, people are still telling me, and again, I don't know because I don't pay attention to it, but every day people, did you know that someone's talking about you right now on their stream negatively? Did you know that someone's doing this stream and it's all toxic stuff about you and your family members and this and that? Did you hear on this podcast they did it? No, I don't care. It's the holiday season. I'm here to make fun gameplay with you guys and be positive. Can you imagine being a toxic, negative person Christmas week?
I mean, like I said, detracting, there's no off season. It's year round, baby. Rise and grind, fellow tractors. Rise and grind.
I can't, but that's these people. This is their whole life in existence. They claim it's lolcowing is milking people. You're not milking me. You're milking miserable people on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. You, a miserable person on the internet. That's who we're milking. But I get what he's saying. He's saying that all of the people that cover him in a negative, toxic way are actually just milking your audience the whole time. But I don't think that he understands that when it comes to the term milking being used in this sense, that it has everything to do with the content. And I really can't think of a detractor that milks any of their content from their audience. So this whole point just didn't make any sense. Thanks, DSP.
You're creating more misery, a cycle of misery for personal gain. Anyone who makes that kind of content should be fucking ashamed, demonetized, and in my opinion, banned from YouTube. They shouldn't exist.
He says people like myself, you know, the detractors and the trolls, are creating a cycle of misery. But every time I go to my comment section, and this is not to toot my own horn, I'm just, you know, going off of what I actually have experienced. But every time I go to my comment section, it's nothing but you guys telling me that you guys really appreciate the videos and you can't believe that DSP is like this and that you watch them on your lunch and it's your favorite part of the day, or, you know, whatever you guys say. I really do appreciate all that. So I'm just failing to see where that misery he's talking about is actually manifesting itself. Because if it's not showing up in the comments and it's not showing up in the stream chat when I stream, I just don't know where he's getting this from. But then he goes on to say that all of this negative misery content should just be demonetized and even banned from YouTube. So DSP is absolutely okay with just censoring his critics, obviously. Because that's all that really amounts to, is anybody that says something negative about DSP, something that he doesn't agree with, even though it's true, is just going to be immediately banned, demonetized, and gone off of the face of YouTube, never to be seen again. Because if you disagree with the Gowdy cult leader, you just get disappeared. That's the way it's gotta be, man.
That's the worst kind of content, especially for this kind of year. And these people are all focused on it. That's what I mean. Why the hell would anyone be like that this time of year? That's insanity. You know, that's absolute nuttiness to think that that's something you should be doing Christmas week.
I know it's only just been this one episode, but I'm already tired of him trying to use the holidays as some sort of weapon against the detractors. It's just stupid and honestly kind of disrespectful if you ask me.
But that's the reality of life right now on Earth, is that you have how many hundreds, if not millions, hundreds of thousands to millions of people on this planet that are just plain miserable. And no one cares about them. And they just leave them. What happens is people abuse them. People are making this kind of predatory content to hone in and sucker those people into feeling good about misery.
He always talks this way about drama channels or troll channels, detractor channels, channels that follow lol cows in general, but he just fails to realize that there's a lot of people who aren't exactly reveling in the misery of these lol cows and follow them because they're intrigued, because they want to know what's going on with this enigma of a person. How can they continue to exist like this? Because they're so abnormal, it just doesn't make sense to them. It's interesting. Not that they're happy to see these people continue to fall lower and lower into madness. I mean, trust me, those people exist, the people who are happy, but there's a ton of people who are just interested, and there isn't anything wrong with that. In the same way that you might be interested in like murder documentaries and serial killers and cults and stuff. You probably shouldn't be reveling in those things, but they're definitely interesting and intriguing. But like I said, DSP just fails to understand that. He just throws this broad generalization out there and it's just plain false.
That should never happen. You should never feel good about misery ever in your life, you know?
And real quick, I just have to personally disagree with that. There are people who follow, well, let's just say Derek's proclivities, and I am very, very happy that those people are miserable when they get to where they're going. Some people just get what they deserve, and there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of joy in that.
That's why it's called misery, because it's supposed to be people miserable, not happy. If you think that someone being miserable makes you happy, you need to go seek some kind of mental readjustment with a professional or a counselor. You really should. You shouldn't be sitting on the internet dwelling in misery at Christmas week. That's really messed up. People sitting here, man, I just can't wait for the Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough to go sour. What the hell is wrong with you?
I mean, real talk though, just if we live in reality for a second, does the holiday season just make you forget everything that you had going on prior to the holiday season? I mean, you still have to live your day-to-day life, which means you're probably still thinking about the things that you were doing that are completely unrelated to the holidays themselves. So if you were hoping to dunk on DSP or hope that his playthrough goes sour before the holiday season, you're probably still hoping that that's the case during the holiday season. I don't know, just because it's Christmas or whatever doesn't mean that you're not still interested in the things that you were interested in before.
You're nuts. You need help. Really, you should actively stop whatever you're doing and go to see someone who can maybe help you and readjust your brain to have a better life, a productive, positive life. You shouldn't be dwelling on that stuff, you know? And it really makes me sad to know how many people there are like this, okay? So, truth is, I'm having a great time. I cannot wait for more Baldur's Gate 3 today. I know we're going to have a great stream. I hope you guys, again, will stick around. And I certainly feel that you guys will continue to enjoy the playthrough as much as I have, I hope. And, again, as long as we keep up the level of engagement and consistent interaction and you helping me with the stuff I don't understand and giving me advice on things I should do. And again, that doesn't mean hand-holding every moment. That doesn't mean, oh, this is a fight. Here's exactly how to win it in 2 turns. No. I want to figure it out for myself. But if I ask questions, hey, is this spell working how I think it works? What's a good spell to pick when I level up?
But those are 2 completely different things, DSP. There's definitely a difference between, hey, does this spell work how I think it works? I'm reading the description and it sounds like it'll work like this, but I don't really want to put it on if that's not the case. As opposed to, hey, which spell should I pick when I level up, guys? Could you just pick for me because I don't know? What's that thing that DSP always says? If you can't see the difference, then I guess you're stupid? Something like that, right?
Am I missing out on anything important or essential in this area? Because I swear I searched the area, but maybe I missed a little. You know what I mean? Those are just genuine questions and things to make the gameplay experience more enjoyable rather than me just guessing for myself and flubbing it and doing things wrong and missing out on stuff. I want to have a good time. I'm not going to be going back and playing Baldur's Gate 3 10 times. I'm going to play it once. So I want this one time to be a great, enjoyable experience, okay?
And hey, am I missing anything in this area before I leave really just turns into, hey, is there any secrets that I should be checking out, guys?
So, thank you to those who are here, who are positive, who are having a good time. And thank you to those who are consistently supporting Baldur's Gate 3. That's very nice of you. It's a lengthy RPG. And a lot of the times when I play RPGs, they don't get a lot of support. Namely, take a look at Like a Dragon that we're playing right now. There's some nights where there's like none. And that's okay because it balances out with everything else. But it's nice to know that there's enough of an audience for this game and people who want me to experience a real D&D experience that you will support it. I really appreciate that. All right, so thank you so very much for that. Really looking forward to today's stream. Okay?
Yeah, hopefully he continues to play Baldur's Gate 3 and be miserable while he does it and get his hand held the entire time. It'll make for a good This Is How You Don't Play, where they point out all of the times that he was stupid. But that's going to do it for today. Hopefully all of you enjoyed the video. Of course, another big shout out to Doody Streams for the clip in this one. I really appreciate it, brother. Big ups to everybody who watched, especially if you made it this far. Thank you. Of course, a very special big ups to all of the members of the channel. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. But hopefully I'll see all of you guys in the next video. But until then, make sure that you check out other Detractor channels and dive deeper into that. Snore tags.